Hey guys, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and I want to talk to you today about racing games, or more specifically, kart racers. In the wake of Crash Bandicoot Team Racing being announced for the remastering next year and all sorts of terrible puns being used around the word fur, it got me thinking about kart racing games as a whole. Now, time was back in the day that everyone and their dead nan's dog had a kart racer, and the genre was awash with crazy, chaotic, and colourful worlds. Then things started to get serious. I personally blame the cancellation of Firefly, and in fact, people just moved away from the medium. However, it's time to refuel and remember to put our rubbers on, because I went to Twitter and asked you about what your favourite underrated kart racing games were, and oh my, were there a lot of you. So let's take a look together, shall we? I'm Jules, your one per list wonder, and these are your 10 most underrated kart racers, and say it with me, kids, of all time! But before we make skid marks over to the list, why not race over to shop.whatculture.com real quick and check out my snappy new t-shirt lines that I've got out. We actually sold out of the original batch, so snap them up before these prints go as well. I can't stop it. Number 10, POD Planet of Death. We begin with a game that is so 90s that it's almost painful, and one that Twitter fiend and Steam-forged board games lad Jamie Giblin absolutely loved as a kid. He's not alone either, as while this game was about as gross to look at as Josh Brown's VR porn search history, it was an experience that was amazing to get to grips with, much like VR porn. Yes, it's rough around the edges, but trust me, this game was actually brilliant to play. And trust me again that this plot to this game is absolutely mental. So get this is from the official wiki for this game. The game is set in the distant future on the planet Io. A mining accident unleashes a fungus from within the planet on its inhabitants, causing widespread panic. After most of the population escapes the planet, a few survivors remain on Io, with only one ship remaining. The survivors soup up cars which they race in tournaments, the winner of the final tournament taking the last ship and escaping to safety, leaving the others to die. I mean, how can you not want to play this after hearing how bollock mental that is? But side note though, why didn't anyone just drive to the ship and take off without them? Why stage a tournament? Bit of video game logic there, but never mind. Number 9, Mega Man Battle and Chase. For a brief period in time in between the terrible first box art cover and when he got all fat in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Mega Man did what every mascot seemed to do: forget about his worries and the threat of robo-annihilation and pick up sports. And you know what? Alongside Mega Man Soccer, his Battle and Chase game for the PS1 was actually pretty brilliant. Sure, it was a bit clunky on the corners, but come on, he was driving a dog after all. But the action side of the game was a fresh change of pace for kart racers at the time. You see, each player had a different power which you could charge up and unleash on your opponents, and if you were feeling particularly devious, like I'm sure that Tom Busby, who also loved this game, was, when you win races in the Grand Prix, you could actually steal components from other racers' cars and add it to your own. It was kind of like a cross between a kid-friendly Carmageddon, Mario Kart, and Lego Racers, which are all ticks in my book then. Number 8, Konami Crazy Racers. Steve and Alex P and I probably would have been good friends as kids. I mean, I don't actually know this. I mean, he probably ate his own snot along with Ash Millman in the back of the class, but I'm basing it solely on our shared love for Konami Crazy Racers on the Game Boy Advance. Put simply, not enough people played this game, but the reaction is the same whenever I show people this. Why have I not heard about this? I mean, you can play as Grey Fox from MGS1 for a start, and Vic Viper from the Gradius series. You could even race on a Shadow Moses-inspired track. It's like a collection of the coolest kids that you and only your dad might remember from way back way, all crammed into a handheld game that was incredibly fun to play, and there was nothing more enjoyable than slapping in that link cable and challenging friends to a showdown, especially seeing as that soundtrack was utterly bumping, yo! Plus, unlike Mario Kart, you can actually keep your coins between races and spend them in a shop to upgrade the number of times that you could use items in a match. Things like this gave the game longevity, and it did it all before Mario Kart even hit the Game Boy, releasing at launch of the console. So take that, Mario, you goon. Number 7, Chocobo Racer. If you're looking at the title and saying, "Quare?" then 1, don't worry as I'll now explain it to you, and 2, yes, that was a well-nuanced and relevant Final Fantasy joke. You're very welcome. As we all know, Chocobos are the lifeblood of Final Fantasy games, and here in Chocobo Racing, things get amped up all the way to the lucky 7s. As you might expect from a company that loves stats and RPG systems, even this plucky little racer has leveling elements, upgrades, and a story more mental than the one that your mum gives to your dad as to why the room smells of Jules Musk and her gimp gloves are have been all lathered in cake batter. There's my one per fist, and is dedicated to Kyle Morecambe, who dropped in this suggestion. You've got your usual assortment of modes, both single and for the racing against friends type, but the true shining gem of this game was its mental pop-up book story mode. In this, you'd compete against other Final Fantasy mainstays as you try to uncover the secrets behind Chocobo's ankle ring. Trust me, it's actually more fun than it sounds. And by beating this mode, you could create your own character. This, coupled with the ability to steal other players' items by bashing into them, that classic Final Fantasy charm which drips from its level and its soundtrack, and the fact that each player had a special move meant that these races were Chocobo full of fun times. Number 6, Jak X. Right, now I've got a lot of love for both this game and to Canning Bomb, who also shared the view that Jak X is the Jak Sex. I actually covered this game in a lot of detail over on my personal channel, which you can check out, by the way, if you've got the time. It's TFU Show. It's not a plug, by the way. I just worked really hard on it, is all. When you've got the likes of Naughty Dog themselves, aka one of the godfathers of kart racing games at the helm, and the IP of Jak and Daxter to play with, then you know you're in for a good time. The races were brutal and chaotic, mixing up the likes of item grabbing, power sliding that like you'd expect from kart races, with takedowns and explosions that wouldn't look out of place in the Burnout series. With a surprisingly good but daft story, a ton of customization on deck to play with, and multiple modes that switch up the gameplay to keep you engaged, this really is a great game that so many, even fans of the franchise, have overlooked. Luckily, it's getting another outing on the PS4 soon, so you've got no excuse to ignore this absolute banger this time around. Number 5, Cell Damage. Soul Ramen wrote to me suggesting that I put Cell Damage on this list, and you know what? Because of your conviction and your adorable Twitter handle name, I shall oblige. Plus, the game is a rip-roaring chainsaw to the heart, spurting colours and crazy all over the place, so I couldn't really ignore it, could I? This game takes the likes of Carmageddon, the over-the-top style of a Saturday morning cartoon, and the weird weaponry that you'd find on the likes of Fur Fighters, and mixes them all together into something that looks like it will give you a seizure. It's not a kart racer in the traditional sense, but trust me, when you see how much mayhem you can cause and how many options there are to do it across, you'll forgive it for forsaking tradition in favour of full-on frenzy. Number 4, Looney Tunes Space Race. Now this is the thing, I immediately thought of this game for this list as it was a proper staple of my childhood, and after reading Panna Parker's comment of "give the people what they want, Jules," I knew I had to include Looney Tunes Space Race. Again, it's another off-the-wall art style and a ludicrous setting, but thanks to that being the Looney Tunes norm, it feels very connected to the source material. Plus, the love and care that's gone into the tracks and the characters, who are voiced extremely well, is extremely commendable. Well, that is, at least on the Dreamcast version, because the PS2 iteration was a bit messy and buggier than Bugs Bunny covered in ticks. Still though, picking up and playing this game today, you'll be in for a treat as you race through the space pyramids of Mars, or the rather terrifyingly planet Acme, which, if I'm being honest, looks like the least safe environment to raise a family. Number 3, SNES Rock'n'Roll Racing. Good old Jennifer Harrison pretty much wrote this entry for me, bless her, saying, "SNES Rock'n'Roll Racing was so friggin' great. Alien drivers on strange planets, wicked tracks / weapons / power-ups, a great, badass and insulting race announcer, and best yet, the music, racing to 16-bit files of Born to Be Wild, Paranoid, Bad to the Bone, etc. Come on." I couldn't have put it better myself. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that or she'll have my job, the cheeky whippet. Quick, Jules, say something funny. Ah, bollocks, I've not said anything funny in years and I'm still on the roster. Well, no, wait. Josh Brown sucks, haha, and I'm back, baby! Number 2, ModNation. Now this is something above and beyond what many expect from a kart racing game. A title that not only comes jam-packed with the usual foray of crazy racers, power-ups, and mad tracks, but is actually one built around user-created content and has a fully fledged story mode slapped on as well. In short, ModNation took many by surprise, and anyone with half a mind could end up creating some ludicrously enjoyable tracks. The story mode even had some bizarrely dark moments, such as bombs on carts and people ending up in comas, but it still managed to find a balance between that and the OTT races. As Exploit_Gamer says, the variety of customization and power-ups gives more aggressive gameplay, much like your mother on date night. And I guess that's his one per list. To be honest, with a game like this and the amount of options available, it's no wonder that fans were still playing the title even up to the close of the online service in October 2018, 8 years after it was first launched. And number 1, Speed Freaks. And we end with something that, to be honest, I was always going to place at number 1. I know, sue me. But it's a game that many of you totally agree with, including Sarah Collins, who said, if Speed Freaks for the PS1 isn't there, I'll be sorely disappointed. Well, Sarah, I've disappointed many people in my life, but at least it won't be for forgetting about these Rayman-limbed invisible kart racing crazies. Plus, I mean, you could unlock the dog Cosworth for Christ's sake. That alone should be reason enough to love this game. But if you're looking for a better excuse, then the track design is phenomenal, chock full of secrets and shortcuts, the music is a techno rush for the ears, and it's as tight as choir boy hamstrings when it comes to its gameplay. Plus, it's not too expensive if you wanted to pick up a physical copy, which is basically the holy trifecta of awesome. And there we go, those were 10 of your most underrated kart racer games, and say it with me, kids, of this list. Oh, I got you again. My throat's given out a bit, so I'm probably going to have to wrap up this pretty quickly. I hope I'm not getting ill. But before I do die, because I probably am now, swing by shop.whatculture.com and show it some love with your wallet, because, you know, it doesn't actually just support the channel. It actually acts as a kind of tip jar for me if you think I'm doing a good job, and that's always quite nice to know. Then go and follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter, and as always, I've been Jules, you've been awesome, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!